Hello everyone, welcome to another evaluation. Today we're going to be evaluating Soupsake and his 5159. I apologize for my voice as I'm still recovering from sickness. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is his parking in front of the hotel, which is bad because he goes around the Oceanic and you really should just be going in between the two. I think it's a pot and a palm tree or something like that. You really should just do that. It's not hard, and if you do it a few times, you're gonna get a good rhythm of how to stop and whatnot. And you won't get the cutscene if you just park normally, like park in the middle of it. So that's already one time save that I can in the very first minute of the run. The next thing I want to talk about is his ambulance drive, which is kind of cringy. I really think you should just do what everyone else does and go through the little mall part where you go on mall shootout, for example. The ambulance is good enough to take the bumps, if of course if you slow down and not go full speed ahead, just like any other sort of bounce or bump. But yeah, I think you could save some time on just doing a normal ambulance route. I want to also point out that you had an excellent freeway drive, so good job on that. Keep it up. I think if that's how you do it every time, I think you're gonna be absolutely fine. You have the right idea by leaning back on the turn with the PCJ right here, but you kind of overdid it a little. Like, just do a slight tap. I advise you to start crouch canceling everywhere. You press crouch and then sprint right after it. That's what crouch canceling is. I think it might even work if you hold sprint and just press crouch, but I'm not sure. So just do like a normal crouch cancel, like pressing. For example, I use Alt, so I just press Alt and Shift every time I jump off a bike or every time I am done shooting something, for example, as well. This skips the animation of Tommy recovering from the bail or Tommy putting down the gun. And if you get used to doing this everywhere, you're gonna save just a lot of time, just naturally, just doing it. When you trigger the movement in the cutscene, you want to hold D and W and look to your right instead of doing what you did there. In case there is a car coming, so like you trigger the cutscene, you look to your right, and then you continue going the normal way. So if there's a car going, you're already going that way. But if there isn't a car, then it's fine. You can just turn around and go to the normal. I think you had a great drive back on T-Swine. I think what I will advise for overall PCJ, not just that drive in particular, a little more courage in going faster somewhere, and not being afraid of traffic or resetting will bring you you know some amounts of time save. I'm not saying that you should just go full speed every single time. Everyone slows down a little bit. No SSU is not a category where slowing down a little bit is run over. I think everyone could benefit from slowing down. Even I would, because sometimes I do have some irrational resets where just slowing down and evaluating your options or would be good enough. But yeah, if you have a little more courage and believe in your drives a little more, you're gonna get like phone call skips for sure. So something to think about. Phone call skip, I mean, on Treacherous Swine, where you skip the phone call and start mall shootout, like you're fast enough. And yeah, if you practice that drive and other drives, of course, you're just gonna notice the patterns of traffic on the drive, and where a car is more likely to come out and where you should be You shouldn't be afraid of going full speed because there isn't gonna be a car there. And yeah, I can't teach you the patterns themselves. There's a lot of them. There are many, especially on the treacherous swine drive back. It's impossible, and I don't think anyone even knows the full amount of the patterns. And there's always gonna be some kind of new one that you've seen, that you haven't seen. But overall, like just the most famous ones, I guess, the most common ones, I would advise you to just practice and like notice the traffic. On gate zip, I'm not sure what your inputs were on it, but it seems like you didn't press F and then held W and maybe pressed F while you were holding W, and that blocked the input, so you eventually fell off your bike. I don't think it's necessary to press F, but I feel like it makes it more consistent when you do gate zip. And when you hold F, when you hold W, your F key is always gonna be blocked. Like Tommy is just gonna stop and not get out. You know what I mean? It's gonna be as if you're holding handbrake if you're going full speed. Um. So on the drive, on the flight back to the mansion after the chase, I see a lot of people that have issues with the landing, and I think many people don't realize how big of an advantage just having a proper reference point that doesn't start from the very end helps. So obviously I'm kind of in the minority of this, but my reference starts from when I approach Starfish Island. There's a gate. I'm gonna circle it on the screen right here, where I look at it and kind of line myself up to be a slight bit to the right of it, and that puts me in a position where I'm gonna be 100% like, basically the landing spot is where the marker of the mission is. So if you line yourself up with the marker of the mission, then your landing is also gonna be like straight and not hit anything. I would just stop doing the too close thing that you do on the fade skips, because it's kind of pointless. It's I think it might even like lose you time or just not save you any. So just learn the timing of doing it with one replay. That's all I could say. It's not even hard. It's just I don't really have a reference for it honestly, personally, but you know, just doing it a couple of times with one replay, you're gonna get the idea of it, and you can of course watch a run. I'll play a I'll play a clip right now of me doing one, but just doing it with too close kind of defeats the purpose, you know. One strat that I think is an absolute must is 500 nades on supply and demand, because 500 nades just completely revolutionizes the mid to late game. Shakedown is so much faster. Bar brawl is, you know, okay. You can, if you fuck up the 2 nades, you're not fucked, you know. But you shouldn't be fucking up 2 nades. Obviously, you should be even going for 1 nade, I would argue. But that's maybe a little more intermediate. Sir, yes, sir. You get to throw a grenade there, and that saves a lot of time actually. Being able to clip through the garage door. So yeah, overall 500 nades, an absolute must. I'm not sure if you forgot or something like that, or maybe the strat wasn't even a thing. Look, man, I honestly I didn't see what time the run was made, so it could just be an old run, new strat kind of deal. But yeah, I think you should go for it. The fade skip on supply and demand, I think you should do it. I think it's one of those things that just makes sense if you do it. Or I don't know if you do it, or maybe you were just too late your replay here, but I would advise to just go for it. You know, it doesn't lose that much time not getting it. as opposed to just getting it. And you're almost always gonna save time if you manage to play the close replay before you start this cutscene. Yeah, so Serious Sir, obviously doing the nade strat here is gonna be great. It's gonna save you time. It's free time save, really. It doesn't require any skill. If you want to, you can just begin by doing the nade and not doing the chainsaw, because the nade saves 10 times more than the chainsaw. But I'm pretty sure like the more you get used to it with the nade, the faster you're gonna transition to doing the chainsaw as well, because yeah, it's just timing and feel for it, in my opinion. You know what they say about glitching cars before the call here? It's pretty risky and it's absolutely pointless because there are cops everywhere, and a random car from the mission could be driving nearby as well, just as you shoot. So you're gonna get a call and you don't have a close replay here, so it's kind of cringe going around the pillar and runabout in my opinion, but I think that would be a small time save as well. Another must do, in my opinion, is grenades shakedown. Once again, utilizing the 500 nades, but maybe you weren't, maybe it wasn't a strat back then again. So yeah, it's free time save if you just do grenades shakedown. It's not hard. Uh, I'll show you a clip right now. So my reference for the first windows is basically when I enter, I throw a soft throw, not like touching a throw, but like enough so he doesn't do the long throw animation. And then as I'm standing there, so just doing a full strength throw to the furthest to the left windows. You don't need to hit all four. You just need to hit the furthest two on the left. The one on the second and the first floor. So after doing that, the rest is pretty much easy. You want to throw a grenade in the corner so you can get all the four windows in that area, and then move to the side. Again, soft throw for the furthest ones in the back, and then again throw in the corner so you can blow up the other side as well. Yeah, I think you're gonna upgrade a lot if you do nades shakedown. And on the last set of windows, I would start doing it to move closer to where you're shooting, because basically my reference is this little tile on the floor. Like when it ends, just crouch there and shoot, because one, you're gonna be closer to the infernus, and second, if you do that, you can even chainsaw the door off. If you chainsaw the door after passing the mission, you're gonna get a star, and you're not gonna get rid of it unless you pick up the clothes. So moving on, I would advise you to crouch further in the middle of the parking spot, right there, so you get a better angle for the snipe to kill the two guys. To do that, you would either have to park the infernus further and throw the nades from further away, or crouch cancel, like I said earlier, after throwing the last one. Unfortunately, with no nades, you'd have to probably switch from the chainsaw quickly. So that's another reason you should do 500 nades, so you don't have to switch from the chainsaw. One thing I kind of nitpick here on Copland is, while I'm shooting sideways on Copland, I like to close the door. It doesn't lose you any time when you get in. You start booting up the heli and then you close the door. That doesn't lose you time. Of course, if you get in, close the door, and then it starts booting up, that's gonna lose you time. So just when you get in, leave the door open, make sure it starts spinning the rotors, and then let go of W to close the door. It's a little bit safer that way, but if you're gonna get busted, you're probably gonna get busted. But it's good to have the door closed, so if he does come and you miss with the shots, believe me, I've done that. I've missed the sideways shots here. You can at least like fly away if you're ready. Both times on this landing right here, on Treacherous Wine and Spilling the Beans, you don't lean back or forward, and I feel like that may be a placebo for me, honestly. But I feel like the more airtime you get, the less you spend having your tires on the floor and accelerating. So consider leaning back or forward for that drop there to you know, overall have more whatever it's called, more control over the PCJ. What I've been doing is this one thing that I learned from San Andreas actually. It's leaning forward and then leaning backwards to get like maximum fast on the ground. I think that's a good way, in my opinion, to do it. And that way you're not like leaning back on your back tire too much, which I feel like would lose you some control over it. Uh, you kind of did it on the bribe, so I would do it just everywhere else as well. You know, it's just having more control on your PCJ overall is gonna result in a lot of time save. And on cherry popper duping, when you leave the van for for the first dupe is what I'm talking about. When you leave the van, you have your chainsaw in hand. So for like 0.5 seconds, keep running with the chainsaw in hand and then switch to your fists, so you don't get this weird like stumble where you begin running and then you let go of the chainsaw, you switch to hands or whatever, and then you start running again. So it's better to have some momentum going. And believe me, I've played a lot of these fate skips. That's probably my most trained segment of the run. So definitely do that. I think it's gonna help you a lot, especially in doing the fate skip with doing the first fate skip. Um, you should pretty much forget about punching, in my opinion, and learn to crouch cancel because it's usable with everything, not just with fists. Like you can have your Uzi in hand and still do it. And it's a little faster than punching. I think it was timed recently. It is like small margins. Overall though, on cherry poppers, you shouldn't need to punch or crouch cancel at all unless it's to correct your positioning. So just practice it a little bit so that when you jump off, you land right at the door. It's honestly easier than it looks, in my opinion. So that's one thing that I would advise everyone to do, not just Soupsake. Another thing about the cherry popper duping that I noticed is you got one of those shitty fate skips where you start the mission and then the fate skip starts and it's kind of chunky or something like that. The reason that happens is because you're too fast. Once you exit the van, you're too fast in entering the mission. So you have to gain a feel of like how fast you should be going, considering like your bike position when you get out and all that. But yeah, usually it's because you're too fast. And CTC snipe is a must in my opinion. Like there's no reason for you not to be going for it, especially like there's this mouse fix. I'm still not using mouse fix because it's not comfortable for me to use it. I'm sorry, but I tried using it and it kind of ruins it for me, so I just prefer to not use it. But you can use mouse fix if that's your problem. But CTC snipe 100% consistent, must do, saves a lot of time, especially with the fact that you drove there. That saves you even more time. And if you did CTC snipe, you probably would have parked closer to the second set, and you would have had more time to line yourself up properly for the third set, which is where everyone fails, me included. So, the more time you have to line yourself up with the third set, the better you're gonna hit them, obviously. And maybe reload your M4 unless you just forgot about that. But like after you get off the bike, for the third set, you can just do QE to reload the M4. Yeah, lineup is the most important for all of these shots, but especially for the third. And Pepega, keep your friends close is a must as well. It's no longer risky. I think it hasn't been risky for forever. If you just miss Sunny, you don't stay there. You just run away and then begin shooting. And yeah, begin shooting is my last point or my last critique of your run. I think you almost lost 52, sub 52, because you chainsawed Sunny instead of just using the M60. I understand chainsawing Sunny because you don't have any guns, because if you did Doomer CTC, but if you have the M60, just go for the M60, man. It's faster than chainsawing for sure. And yeah, it could have cost you sub 52, so yeah, emphasis on that. Overall, I would say you should put more trust in your driving lanes. Uh, you wiggle a little too much, and it loses you more time than just having an unoptimal driving line where you correct it once and stick to it. Work on your landings. Be more aggressive when you land your helicopter everywhere, especially like places like Shakedown and Sirius Sur, I think was also another one. Like places like that, or at the mansion, just be more aggressive. And to do that, I would suggest start pressing S a little bit earlier because you line yourself up, you turn around, you do all that, and then you land. Like if you're a normal helicopter driver, yeah, that would be that would be the way to go. But in a speedrun sense, being more aggressive, I mean to like going down as you're lining yourself up for the landing. So I think that would save you a lot of time overall, just having faster landings. Another thing I noticed was that I would just start using A and D when moving on foot, and I would suggest also leaning back on some wider turns. It's just faster to lean back. So play around with the PCJ and learn when you turn how you can use leaning back to you the best of your abilities. And I skipped a few obvious mistakes like the Guardian Angel's fall, the Lance going rogue on Copland, shooting you. Those are mistakes that just happen and you kind of just have to accept it. For example, on the Guardian Angels one, yes, you can avoid the scar by being more cautious, but there's a point where you can only be so cautious without losing time. So I didn't comment on those because it's pretty pointless.